So we have officially started season number 7 off to a little bit of a better start than what we have been accustomed to these last two seasons, starting out 2-2. And taking a look at last episode, we had a handful of decent draft picks kind of go our way. But the big story coming into this particular episode here today, guys, is if Lance Klein cannot improve. He's sitting at that 97 superstar X factor, which is great to have, but he has 4 passing touchdowns. Granted, he only has the 1 interception, but this needs to seriously improve so much more than just the 1 passing touchdown per game. I actually kind of want to take a look at something here with all of you today, guys. Just taking a look at some of these stats from the quarterbacks who are at the top of the league and just kind of their passing numbers and touchdowns. So Will Lincoln, who is a 5-year quarterback, he has 7 passing touchdowns to no interceptions. Absolute monster. But Trevor Lawrence has 15, Joe Burrow has 11, Patrick Mahomes has 10 in Green Bay, but Jared Burton has 8, so does Emmett Lipton, Tua Tagovailoa. These are the types of guys he is going to be to ultimately be compared to, and he is just not on that level. As you can see here, there's so many guys ahead of him. So we have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 23 24 25. He is 26th in the NFL. As you can see, I should have probably just looked at it right there. 26 in the NFL for passing touchdowns. That is just simply not good enough. And I said it last year, I was ready to bench him. And ultimately, we started to go on a little bit of a win streak at the end of the year and made it really hard. But this year, if he does not improve his play, he will be benched. But as per usual, when we go through this, we will be going through the entirety of this particular season and any playoff games we will also take a look at. And if we somehow make it to the Super Bowl, that will be its own specialty episode like the one we did previously. Make sure to go watch all the episodes so you can catch up to this point and kind of go through this journey alongside me. But we are taking on the 3-1 Eagles. Again, we're going to sim each game. If you don't see me again until week number 8, either at the trade deadline or when we have finished our 8th game, then it's clearly not gone well, but hopefully we see each other much more. This just so happens to be our 3rd win of the season, being the Rams 21-14. Taking a look at the game, Lance Klein, for a 2nd game in a row, he has the 2 passing touchdowns. And taking a look here at both teams, Sam Howell not really doing much of anything, but he did get sacked 3 times, no interceptions. So still trying to look for a few more interceptions throughout the year, but Bryce Jefferson had himself a really good game. 24 rushing attempts, 94 yards, the 1 TD. Taking a look at the receiving, Okonkwo, he had the 63, and McCain and Hunt both doing their thing there. Taking a look at the blocking, did we give up sack? No, we did not. Emmanuel Forbes doing fairly good, leading the team in tackles, but our sacks, Glenn Bolden and Leslie Moody both getting sacks on the day, but God, Glenn Bolden, I think that's his 3rd sack of the year, so he's definitely been a nice little bright spot for this team moving forward. I'm so happy with that pick. We have officially made a trade for Okonkwo, sending him to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for their 2nd round pick in this year's draft. A player that has been so good for us throughout the years, but we definitely feel like we have our new guy stepping up into the future, and we kind of want to go through that same little experience that we did last year with some of our better guys, of where we say, you know what, we kind of tested it throughout the beginning portions of the year, so let's ultimately give some of these younger guys a shot at that spot and really just move this one forward. Okonkwo, again, he's only going to be getting worse for us. He was a free agent at the end of the year, so might as well send him away for something. We have also sent away Tyree Wilson, this time to the Miami Dolphins, for another 2nd round pick, just adding some players that ultimately are going to be again, they're not our starter, or at least Tyree Wilson. He definitely wasn't one of our starters here at the moment. But with the way Goldrin has been playing, I believe, or Bolden, I can't fully remember his name off the top of my head here at the moment, has been playing. You know what? Tyree Wilson was without a doubt expendable, and we get an extra second round pick. So I think that's a first round and 3 second rounders. That's going to be very helpful for us moving forward. Right after the bye week, we are again able to sweep the Dallas Cowboys, this time beating them by a score of 21-16. Taking a look at the game, Lance Klein kind of going back to the way that he's kind of done things again this year, so it's a little bit annoying, but we still got the win. He did get sacked once, but we did get an interception on Pearson, so our secondary actually playing a little bit better in that game. But Jefferson, the 49 rushing yards, but he did get the 2 TDs. And then taking a look here at Jahan Dotson, ultimately leading the team in yards, but and Stoudermere, it's going to be something along those lines, but Bryce Jefferson actually getting the lone receiving touchdown. So that means he had a 3 touchdown day. And Luke Hunt and McCain both kind of down there. So you don't love to see your top receivers not be able to do anything. And Darius LeBlanc struggling, but Whittington having himself a good day. And Moody and McClendon and Bolden all getting a sack, and then Whittington getting the interception. So it's good to see us get a few of those sacks and interceptions back. Taking a look here at a team that has been struggling the last few years, the Pittsburgh Steelers had the first overall pick 2 out of the last 3 years, and had a top 2 pick 3 out of the last 3 years. We were able to beat them barely 28-25. Taking a look at this game, Lance Klein, the 2 passing TDs, the 1 interception. Kurt Montgomery, who was taken second overall, I think, in the draft before, through a TD and an interception. Both guys got sacked once in that game. Bryce Jefferson, again, has just been an absolute monster. 86 yards, the 1 TD. Luke Hunt finally getting another good game, but McCain having another decent game, and Stoudemire, the 5 catches, so he's a possession guy. Didn't really get too much, but Luke Hunt getting the 2 receiving touchdowns, and Zerma gave up the sack in that one. Martin Emerson had himself an interception, but if I'm remembering correctly from the player of the week, he also got that touchdown as well, so it's good to see him get back in there. But taking a look at the sacks, who got our sacks, McClendon ended up getting the sack, but we also had 2 interceptions, and Jeffrey Whittington getting that one, so we're on a nice little winning streak here at this point of the year. So the last 3 games we were able to get it, but that's 8 games in the halfway mark of the season for us. So let's take a look here at the official stats for all of our team and just how we have done. And it's going to be an interesting decision to see with Mr. Klein. Again, 11 passing touchdowns to 2 interceptions. He doesn't turn the ball over, so that has been really the biggest thing for why I haven't ultimately pulled him at any point. We definitely want to see those numbers in terms of passing touchdowns, but if we keep winning, it's going to be hard to do so. And you know what, if we're just going to be a run first team, run, and Jefferson is doing fairly good, 556 yards, maybe you want a few more yards in terms of that, but still good. Luke Hunt, 609 yards, the 4 receiving touchdowns. McCain, 398, basically just 400 there with the 5, so he has been a nice little addition this year. And still taking a look at the team, it's done a couple of good things so far. And Jahan Dotson, for our number 3 role, 300 yards, still adding some stuff there. Taking a look at the sacks given up, in Zerma and LeBlanc are the only guys on our offensive line to give anything up there, but Whittington leading the team over Okereke with 49-43, so very good there. Sack leaders is Leslie Moody and Bolden, both tied with 4 here at the moment. That's kind of what I like to see, these 2 guys going to be competing, and Glenn Bolden looks like he's going to be very, very good. Does he have his dev trait available? No, he doesn't. So after next game, he should have it, and I'm very curious to see what he is because he's a phenomenal looking player. And then the sacks, McClendon, he's actually gotten two, so maybe he's going to turn into that kind of Isaiah Simmons role for us, kind of being that outside linebacker that gets a bunch of tackles but also gets a handful of sacks. Goodrich also doing fairly well there, but looking at the interceptions, Whitington has 3, Emerson Jr. has the 2, and Emmanuel Forbes has the 1. So ultimately a lot of good there. Looking at our kicking situation, Duggan, again, he missed another kick, so I think he was 3 for 5 last time that we checked, and now he's 4 for 7, so he's only made 1 more kick, but he stayed perfect. Granted, he has had a field goal block, so we kind of take that one off his resume, or pardon me, as a hiccup, take that one off his resume. But yeah, so continuing on, the next time that we will take a look at this is at the end of the year, and hopefully we get to look at some more games throughout this portion, because that would mean if we don't, we haven't won anything. So we absolutely found a steal in the draft with Glenn Bolden. As you can see there, he is a superstar player, and if you didn't catch last episode, we drafted him with the 10th pick in the 2nd round. What a steal this guy has turned out to be. I haven't actually seen what his stats are for this particular week. We'll get that here in a second, but I was just doing the upgrades and saw that and immediately was like, yes, this guy is just unbelievably good, and had to share that with you. The Giants are currently winless coming into this game, and they are going to stay winless in this particular game. Taking a look here at the stats, Harry Morgan, 253, the 2 touchdowns, was sacked 3 times. Lance Klein, is playing football. We're not even going to talk about that. Bryce Jefferson having himself a good game, not able to quite get into the end zone. Luke Hunt getting the 1 receiving touchdown, and Studemir, I'm going to have no idea how to say his name, but yeah, still fairly good. Taking a look at who gave up the sack, in Zerma, just not having a great year, but Okereke actually led the team in tackles in this one. Taking a look at the sacks, Bolden with 2, Leslie Moody with the 1. Like I said, Bolden with that superstar. He is slowly turning into the edge rusher number 1 on this team. Deshaun Richardson getting the interception, so that is something that we very much like to see. After losing our win streak last week, we are back in the win column, this time beating the very talented Tennessee Titans, who we beat 28-21. Taking a look at this, Tua Tagovailoa and Lance Klein both dueled this one out, both getting 2 TDs, but Lance Klein definitely being more efficient throughout the air. He was sacked twice, but Tua was sacked 3 times. Taking a look at here, Bryce Jefferson with the 2 rushing TDs. Again, just an absolute monster. Love that guy. But Connor McLean and Luke Hunt doing their things and just having great days all around. Taking a look at the blocking, LeBlanc and Townsend both giving up the sacks, and then Whitington back on the leaderboard here for the tackles. Taking a look at sacks, Stephen Norwood and Bolden. Haven't seen Norwood get any sacks so far this year, so it's good to see him there, but Stephen Robertson actually getting a sack in this one with Jamie Mayo, one of our backup defensive ends. Yeah, Robertson necessarily hasn't had one of the best years, but we haven't really had to put him in a top role yet, so good to see. So a win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where it seemed like most of the points were scored from us in the first half. Taking a look at the game, Lance Klein again, playing like himself. Bryce Jefferson having himself another good game. McCain getting the 1 touchdown, but just a pretty spread out game throughout that one. Sacks, Flathery, he got in for that particular game. Whitington was tied in the team with Okereke with 8 sacks in this one. Okereke actually got a sack, and then Bolden getting a sack with Moody and Norwood tying for a sack, and then Emmanuel Forbes getting another interception on the year very good to see. A absolute massive victory in this one where we demolished the Jacksonville Jaguars 29-0. Lance Klein had himself a good day, but however, Eddie Sears did not. Both quarterbacks sacked 3 times in this one. Jefferson again had himself a nice looking day. Luke Hunt with one, and again, I'm probably just gonna go in and edit his name to something a little bit easier, Stroudmore. That's what I'm probably gonna do. I'm just gonna call him Stroudmore, just because it's pissing me off that I don't know what to call this guy. But taking a look at who gave it up, Flathery and Morrow, our rookie center, giving it up. And Flathery, unfortunately, he did have to come in due to DeJuan Jones being out for 6 weeks, so giving up a sack in that one. Don't really love to see it. Must have been one of our running backs who also gave up a sack in that one. Whitington leads the team in tackles. Take a look at the sacks. Norwood, we talked about him saying we wanted to see him get a few more sacks on the year. Haven't really seen him do much, and starting to step up the last few weeks. McClendon, another sack again, kind of having that very similar role to an Isaiah Simmons where he's getting sacks, but Bolden, again, superstar, just absolute monster, and I love having him. So the first week, pretty much just immediately after I showed you that game against the Jaguars, we currently are in a playoff spot. At spot is number 7, so each week is going to be very, very important to us in this playoff picture if we want to make it back to the postseason. The Bears have not won a game this season, so this was without a doubt a trap game, and for us in the fourth quarter having to come up big to get the victory. Taking a look here at this one, Lance Klein having a better day, did get sacked. However, we didn't get after Tracy Price, unfortunately, in this one. So Jefferson getting the 1 touchdown, Blackburn also getting it, Luke Hunt getting the lone receiving touchdown, and then McCain not necessarily having a great day, but then Nate Silverman, one of the tight ends that we drafted, I think it was in like the 2nd or 3rd draft for us. He was there in the free agency pool, and we ultimately had to let him go at the end of last year, and just because I knew we were potentially going to try to draft a guy, but I saw him there after we traded away Oquanko and said, you know what, yeah, let's bring him back. He knows the system, knows the scheme, played with a bunch of these guys, and it's not going to hurt. Taking a look, Inzerma gave up another sack. I don't even want to know how many sacks he's given up this year, but Okereke leads the team in tackles in today's game. Unfortunately, didn't get after the quarterback for any sacks and no interceptions, but hey, we got the win. In a game that we needed to win against the Texans to solidify a playoff spot, we ultimately got it done, beating them 28-18. Lance Klein, again, not really going to talk about his performance. CJ Stroud, we were able to get after him 3 times in this particular game, so always like to see that. Jefferson getting into the end zone twice, and Blackburn also able to get in there. The receiving game, Stroudmer, again, not even going to talk about that. No sacks given up on the day for our defense. Amari Green, who was one of our 2nd round picks, leading the team in tackles. Or pardon me, he was our other 1st round pick, leading the teams in tackles in today's game. Also got a half a sack, so good to see him add some extra help there. But Leslie Moody getting a sack and a half in this one. Bolden also getting a half sack with Norwood. So our defense was all over the field on that one. Really good day all around, and just as I said, we are officially in the playoffs. As you can see here, we are going to be facing off against the Arizona Cardinals, the Green Bay Packers, who ultimately got Patrick Mahomes last year, or in free agency. They are in 7th, but yeah, the teams that are in the first place, as you can see there, are the Carolina Panthers and the Tennessee Titans, but this is a big game. For the first time in 2 years, we've made it back to the postseason, and the last time that we were in the postseason, we were in the Super Bowl. But before we ultimately get to any of the playoff games, we need to take a look here at the stats for all of our players. And Lance Klein, again, he has probably the lowest amount of interceptions he's thrown in a season. Let's just take a look at this with his 4 in this particular year. So, yeah, it's the lowest amount of interceptions he's thrown. An improvement from the last 2 years with 28 passing touchdowns. I just get so many Jake Cutler vibes from him of where he's just so he has the ability to be a top 5 quarterback, but he's just so average, and that's kind of the feeling that I'm getting from him. But Bryce Jefferson able to get over 1,000 yards this season and the 17 rushing touchdowns, so a touchdown a game pace from Mr. Bryce Jefferson. Love watching this guy. Luke Hunt again continues on with his 1,000-yard reception seasons. How many years in a row has he managed to get above that 1,000-yard mark? So just taking a look here, pretty much since the first year we traded for him, it's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years in a row of over 1,000. Absolutely insane. But Connor McCain, so very close to getting to that 1,000-yard year, but he does have those 12 touchdowns. And Stroudmere, Studmere. Again, I'm going to find a new way to say that every single time. Again, you know what? Kind of had a similar season to what we would have seen from Okonkwo. So, not too bad whatsoever. Taking a look at the blocking, Dewan Jones, just stumbling over names every possible way now. Granted, he did get hurt for a good portion of the final part of the year, but still gave up no sacks. Mike Nzerma, I gave up the 9, so that's actually a little bit less than what I initially thought. But LeBlanc and Morrow giving up the 5 sacks, so definitely not what you want to see there. But Townsend actually having a very good year, only giving up the 1, and Flathery coming in for relief from Jones gave up the 2. Taking a look here at Weddington leading the team in tackles, love to see it, 117. Then taking a look at the team leaders in tackles for loss, that's Moody and Norwood. And then taking a look at the sack leaders, it was indeed Moody, but Bolden, who didn't actually play the first couple of games, didn't quite get to that 10 sack mark, but still an incredibly good year at 9.5. It's good to see Moody back up into those double digits, but Norwood and McClendon both getting 4. Goodrich, Okereke, and then we had a couple of guys get a half sack. But looking at the interceptions, Jeffrey Weddington with 4, Emmanuel Forbes and Martin Emerson both with 2, and Deshaun Richardson with 1. So definitely not where we want to see from the interception department, but a hell of a lot better than what it was last year. Our defensive touchdowns, we did get just the 1. Taking a look at the kicking, so 1 missed extra point, and Mason Duggan, who was money last year, I think he only missed like 2 kicks in the entirety of last season. He has 2 blocked field goals this year, so okay, we'll give him a little bit of slack, but that number definitely needs to improve if he's going to be our kicker of the future. And that just goes to show how important kickers are year to year, and hopefully we don't have to spend a bunch of money to try to find a replacement. This is just one of those blippy type years. I am in absolute shock. We were losing the entire game, and I thought in the third quarter when we were down like 2 scores in that one, I'm just sitting back going like, there's no way that we are possibly going to win this game. As you can see here, just the scoring summary, it was Arizona, they were up, and then we just managed to come back late in that fourth quarter. Oh my goodness, what a win for us. And Lance Klein, the 2 TDs, but Eric Sherman, their quarterback who I think actually went before Lance Klein in the draft, not able to beat him. Oh my goodness, what a game. Where did they get all their points actually appear? Oh, well, there it is. All their points came from the run game, but Jahan Dotson led the team in receiving yards, but Luke Hunt and Studmere, again, I'm going to say it wrong every single time, both getting the receiving touchdowns. Inzerma gave up a sack. Actually, we got sacked 3 times. LeBlanc and Flathery all giving that up. But Whitington leading the team in tackles, but looking at sacks, McClendon getting the lone sack in this one. No interceptions on the day, but we won a shocker of a playoff game. So again, taking a look here at the playoff picture, and looking at the teams, it looks like the Ravens were able to beat the Raiders, and then both the Bengals and the Jets were able to top their opponents. The Packers beat the Eagles, and the Falcons beat the Minnesota Vikings. So it's a battle of 5th and 6th and 1 and 7 over on the NFC side. So if we're sitting back, we're saying, you know what, we want a rematch against the Panthers. We want to go face them again in the NFC Championship game, but we first have to beat the Atlanta Falcons to get there. Well, we were not able to win against the Atlanta Falcons, as you can see right here. We ended up losing 27-17, and all of our points kind of the opposite of what we did last week. We kept it close in this game, but the Falcons just took it over in the 4th quarter. Lance Klein did have the 1 interception. I think that was a pick 6. Ultimately, we're just going to take a look here at the defense and see if that actually was a pick 6. No, it actually wasn't. So, yeah, just an average game for Klein, I would ultimately say. Again, he threw the ball a ton. Jefferson had played decently on the ground, but Connor McCain, Dotson, but Luke Hunt really didn't get involved in this one. Mike Nzerma giving up a sack, and then DeJuan Jones, who's officially now back, also giving up a sack. That's his first on the season. Okereke leading the team in tackles, and then looking at sacks, Bolden getting a sack, McClendon getting a sack, Whitington getting a sack, and then we had Emerson and Norwood all getting a sack and no interceptions on the game, but unfortunately, that is our season. Taking a look here at the official playoff bracket, we have the Bengals versus Ravens, and then we have the Panthers versus Falcons. But before we move on to see the Super Bowl, we're having to take a look at the Pro Bowl, and if we had anything, I would assume that we would eventually have someone here in the Pro Bowl. Just taking a look here, no receivers, no running backs. I don't think we had a tight end. No, we didn't. Taking a look at our offensive line, I don't think we had anyone from our offensive line. No, we didn't. Moody obviously getting in there. Oh, Bolden, he didn't get in there. That's a shame. But then taking no D tackle love there. Did we get anyone from our linebacker spot? No. And then just moving around, didn't get anyone in our secondary. So we did get Stonehouse, so he's also in there. So we only had the 2 Pro Bowlers, and that's Stonehouse and Moody. So Moody kind of having an insane career, if you were to ask me at this point. I think this is it's either his 3rd or 4th Pro Bowl in a row. Let's actually go take a look. So that is his 4th Pro Bowl appearance, and again, this guy has just been nothing but insanely good for us over the entirety of this franchise mode. And again, when we first drafted him, he was a defensive tackle that we moved over to edge rusher. And yeah, needless to say, he has been quite good. So the Carolina Panthers are able to get their first ever Super Bowl championship win, and Bryce Young proves all the haters wrong after his first miserable season and ultimately gets a Super Bowl victory. Joe Burrow was the MVP, Mac Williams was the coach of the year, Bijan Robinson offensive player of the year, Aiden Hutchinson the defensive player of the year, Cassidy Belton was the offensive rookie of the year, wide receiver for the Bears, and then defensive end Brandon Auden for the Bengals was the defensive player of the year. We need to take a look at him because I thought for sure Bolden would have been an absolute lock for the award. So let's go take a look here at the Bengals and just what this guy did to see if we were ultimately robbed in this award. So taking a look here, obviously Joe Burrow, phenomenal player. Defensive end, okay, yeah, so that extra half a sack is realistically what is going to do it for him. Just a great player. Actually, just a star player. So great pick. Where did they ended up getting this guy? So a few picks after us is where he ultimately was taken. So we potentially could have had we could have had Odin and Bolden at the same time in the same draft, but great player there. I'm pretty happy with our guy, but ultimately in an episode that I think is definitely going to be bring a little bit more cheeriness than the end of last season, at the end of season 6 as opposed to season 7, back into the playoff picture. But that is going to do it here for this episode here today, guys. Thank you all so much for watching and hanging out with me here today. And you know what a phenomenal end to the season after starting out 2-2. This is kind of the exact situation that we needed. But if you like the video, please make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to comment anything that you see or you potentially want to see from either this series or the channel moving forward. And if you're so gracious, please hit the subscribe button. It means so much to me. But till the next episode, peace.